I'm Dr. Melissa Longo. Welcome to Everyday Rockstar Moms, where every episode I'll interview moms just like you who are rocking it in their homes, raising their children, managing their households, building their careers, working on their relationships, dealing with challenges, finding success, trying to find balance, and themselves along the way. Every episode you'll hear from women just like you of all ages and stages of motherhood, sharing their stories, life experiences, and leaving you with practical tips, ideas, and inspiration to help you rock your life. On today's episode, I'm chatting with Allie Miller. Allie is a chiropractor, mother of 3 beautiful girls ranging in ages from 16 to 9 years old. She's happily married to a great guy and living life with a lot of joy. Today she talks about how she balances her practice and the lives of her 3 girls, how she has kept her 22-year relationship with her husband strong, and the importance of taking care of herself and how her workouts, connecting with friends, and taking time for herself are some of the keys to making it all work in her life. She also shares some of her experiences in dealing with her own fears as a woman, facing challenges within their family, how she dealt with them and got through them even stronger. I particularly loved how she grounds herself consistently in thinking about what kind of example she wants to set for her daughters, in teaching them that as women, they are capable and deserving of everything they want to achieve in life. Allie's a fun soul. She's a good friend of mine. She's rocking it in her home and in her life. I had a ton of fun today. Take a listen. Hi, Allie. Welcome to the show. Thanks for being here today.
Good morning.
I've been giggling since we've done our pre-chat here. I've known Allie for quite some time. We first met at chiropractic school, then went through those 4 years together, had our babies together, studied for board exams together, have done had lots of fun times along the way, certainly lots of adventures. I can tell you that Allie is someone that every time I'm with her, I start to laugh. She's a good friend of mine. She has actually also been referred to as a rock star in at least one situation. So
with you beside me, of course.
Well, yeah, lots of good times. But she's also a great mom. She runs a business, has a long, happy marriage with a great guy. So, Allie, why don't you start off by sharing with all our listeners your snapshot of where you're at right now with your life?
Sure. I have been married to my husband, Adam, for 18 years. So we met in university and are still going strong. We decided to start our family while I was still in chiropractic college. So our girls are turning 16, 13, and 10 this summer, which is crazy to think. I've owned and operated my own chiropractic business since 2004. I hit a milestone of turning 40 last summer, and I'm loving life. I love my balance of career, family, friends, exercise, and I'm just kind of ready to kick it up a notch in all those areas.
Sounds awesome. So you said you love your balance. So what are your tips and tricks? Like, how can you define what balance looks like for you?
Balance looks like for me. It's pretty much, my life does revolve a lot around family and Adam and my girls. So Adam is an executive at work. So obviously his job is demanding. It takes him, lots of hours away from us overnight sometimes, working from home, all of the above. And so that requires me to probably put in a little more legwork on the home front. So, I'm the one that organizes our kids' activities and our schedules and running them around and making sure we're all fed and healthy and everything like that. My practice obviously is my practice, so I'm running that, but I love that part. And then I also really make sure that I try and have enough time for me. So that involves, a strict kind of exercise regimen and quality time for myself on my days off, doing things I like, whether it be hanging out with friends or shopping or reading or whatever I feel like doing. And pulling it all together, and that's what kind of keeps me going.
So it sounds to me like your self-time and the exercise are keys for you as far as helping you continue to perform, because you're juggling a lot.
For sure, but they definitely keep me kind of at my top form, I'd say.
And have you ever had times with juggling that, when you thought, well, geez, maybe I should be home more with the girls, or maybe I wish I could be in the practice more, or have you always had to define your work life and your family life a certain way? I guess you would have had to with having the girls right from, during school.
Yeah, and I think it just kind of it's worked. And maybe I kind of thrive on a little bit of kind of chaos and scheduling. So I do well when things are hectic and when I know I have limited times. So I might, I have my schedule. I know the times I'm working out and I will fit it in. And whether that mean, my house maybe isn't spotless that day, that's okay with me because I'd rather get in the workout than have the tidy house. But I feel like I do a good job at being here when I can for the girls and doing stuff with them and getting them where they need to be, and then also having family time with Adam in the evenings as well.
Have you ever felt pulled like that? There were things you were sacrificing in either your work life or your family life?
Yeah, for sure. I think, especially when the girls were younger, I would say maybe my practice, it was good. I was doing well. I was growing, but it didn't have 100% of my attention. If when your kids are younger and if they were unwell to go to sick and they couldn't stay home by themselves, or if they whatever needed me for something else, it was probably my practice that took the sacrifice over them. As they've grown and gotten bigger and are more self-sufficient, I just have more time to maybe focus on the practice. So I feel like that's kind of the next, that'll be the next big thing that will change. For the last 10 years, maybe it was my kids that were the huge, super focus. And now I can put a little more time into that part.
Yeah, it sounds to me like you're evolving, right? As your girls' needs have evolved, you've tried to create a work-life balance that works for you guys as a family and honors their needs as well as your personal needs as well.
For sure. And I think it's important that they see that, right? I mean, especially being all girls and having me as their mother who's at home and working, I think it's important for them to see that I can do both and that they can do both when it's their turn.
Who do you think has been your biggest influence as a mother?
I think probably my own mother. I think we're different characters and we've made different kind of career choices, but ultimately mothering is mothering. So growing up, she put us first as her kids, and she taught us our values. She kind of, made life fun and laughed with us lots, but also, had our rules and had our expectations. She got us involved in lots of different things. So these are all things I've kind of tried to do with my girls as well. It's funny because to this day, there'll be times that she'll, as a mother does, will interject and maybe try and tell me, how she would maybe mother a little bit differently than I am. And in the moment when we're having that discussion, I will argue with her in my defense because I think I'm doing it right. And then, of course, we leave the conversation and I think about it a little bit. And somehow, there is some truth to what she's saying, or one piece of what she's saying is right. And I end up implementing it, which kind of infuriates me sometimes. But I guess that's how someone did a good job and is doing a good job.
Well, it's probably not much different than us with our kids now. You want to honor them and let them make some of their own choices about things, but we also have the wisdom to know what those choices are going to lead to.
Right.
And so it's sort of like, okay, you could do this your way. And then 10 minutes later, they come back and want to do it our way, right?
That's right. Exactly. Yeah.
I want to ask you what brings you joy, but I feel like a lot of things bring you joy. And I think of you and your husband, there's a lot of laughter in your house.
Oh, for sure.
Would you say that's been a key in keeping things harmonious? I mean, I'm sure there's been tough times within your marriage, within your family life too.
Oh, of course. I mean, I think I think that would be lying and abnormal to say there's not any tough times. But for sure, we have a lot of fun. There's a lot of kids generally just make me happy. So, my life revolves around my kids, but I love kids in my office and I love doing stuff with the schools. And I've coached soccer teams and I've done stuff. I think that's just what I'm drawn to. And I've been drawn to it my whole life. But we have a lot of fun with the girls. I think, there's many a kitchen dance party that happens in this house, or, a karaoke in a car, or whatever it may be. We try and have a lot of fun. We try and just bring laughter and music and hugs and kisses all around.
Yeah. Now, you talked a little bit, briefly about maybe you having a parenting disagreement, with your mom. But I mean, women have all kinds of people in their lives who sometimes challenge their ideas as a mother or the way they want to raise their kids. Have you ever dealt with that? And if so, how have you responded?
Like with someone challenging my thoughts as a mom?
Yeah, let's say you decided to, give your kid a certain food product or change their diet or maybe how you manage their health care or the schools that they've gone to or, there's extracurricular activities. And people seem to have opinions sometimes and they throw them at mom's unwanted advice sometimes, right?
Right. You know what? I think the biggest judgment or controversy or whatever you want to call it with me as a mom probably was after we had our third daughter. So I was already in my practice here in Bolton, and I just took 6 weeks maternity with her because I had to get back and I wanted to get back to the office. But obviously she was our third child. My husband was working. We needed help. So we decided to bring over a live-in nanny into our house. And at the time, we had all kinds of questions from people, and how could I be going to back to work so early? How could I, have this other woman in my house raising our kids? Did I worry about her in the house with my husband? All kinds of stuff. How are we pulling her from her family and now making her work with our family and all this kind of stuff? And I struggled with some of that too. I mean, you worry. You do. Those things cross your mind for sure. Ultimately, I think we knew we needed help and it was right for our family. For everything we wanted to do, we needed to pull in a third person. And looking back, it was one of the best decisions we ever made. We love that woman like she is literally a part of our family. And I know that she loves us and our girls like they are her own. We all worked very well together. On the flip side, because we were able to bring her to Canada here, she now, is a Canadian citizen. She has 2 boys of her own that are going to school in our, great country. So, I mean, it's been win-win-win for everybody. But I would say that was probably the biggest, maybe the biggest struggle I had as a mom decision.
With other people giving you their opinions and maybe thinking it wasn't the right thing.
Right. Yeah.
That's a great story, though. How that all turned around.
Yeah, it was. It's pretty neat. And like I said, I mean, we keep in touch with her. She was here just over Christmas for a visit, and it's pretty neat to see, her reaction when she walks in the door with me and with our girls and our girls with her. And none of those fears that, I remember when I had the youngest and, I'm wondering, oh my goodness, I'm going to work. Am I going to come home? And if the baby's crying, is she going to want her over me? And that doesn't happen. I mean, a mom is a mom, and she knew I was her mom.
Yeah, I would think a lot of that comes from our own insecurities that we have as women. And I mean, I've certainly felt that way at times too with dropping my kids off at caregivers or, when my ex-husband got remarried, thinking, okay, whoa, there's another woman that's going to be in my kid's life. What's that dynamic going to be like? And ultimately it came down to me. And yep. You're absolutely right. My kids are devoted to me. I'm their mom. Nothing is ever going to change that. But I had to come to terms with that myself rather than worry about it being inflicted on me.
For sure. And it's getting our own egos out of the way and realizing that, what's the saying of it takes a village to raise a child, right? And I know my girls are better off from it.
Yeah, excellent. So, as a mom then, have you had times, aside from that one, times particularly with your girls, like parenting struggles you've had with your girls?
For sure. I mean, little things. I mean, we've been lucky. Our girls are great girls. They work hard. They're loving. They're dedicated to everything they do. So, I mean, generally speaking, we've been very, very lucky, and I'm grateful for it. I would say, the biggest kind of parenting.
Is there anything right now? I mean, you've got one girl graduating, grade 8, going off to high school. The oldest one is in high school. A lot of people have concerns about, the teenage years. I think teenagers are very much like toddlers, except they just have more vocabulary and more attitude. But they're very similar stages as far as they're trying to exert their own, power in some way. And we've nicknamed the teenagers the fun years.
Right. And you know what? They are the fun years. I mean, our oldest is turning 16. Yes, are there moments where her and I butt heads? And for sure. But I mean, half an hour later, we can call each other on it and she can kind of come down and tell me, oh, I was going to ask you that, but I know you were in a bad mood. Or I can kind of call her on it and say, yeah, why don't you just come back in 20 minutes and ask me again? So it's okay. I mean, I think that's all normal. I think the harder things are, one of our girls last year or 2 years ago had, was struggling with a little bit of anxiety and worry. She's a bit of a perfectionist and just it was kind of consuming her to the point that I think it was shaking her confidence and it was, affecting her sleep and all these kinds of things. And I think that was probably the hardest thing I've had to deal with in that it was helpless, right? Like I was helpless I didn't really know exactly what she needed or how I could help her. So all you can do is kind of be there for hugs and to coach her and to offer new suggestions and to try new things and to just kind of get her through there. But it was definitely hard to watch her. It was heartbreaking to kind of, see one of your kids having that hard a time and not being able to just fix it.
Yeah, I think that's consistent throughout their whole lives with every experience. I think as moms, we innately don't want to see our kids go through anything difficult.
No, yeah. And luckily she came through it and like many of them do with any kind of situation. But in the moment, yeah, that's not fun. And no, and I don't know if I would have expected that it would be that hard, but it was tough.
Now, if you were to look back, maybe on that experience or on other experiences, is there any advice you would give to yourself, your younger mom self? I mean, there's some of the listeners here have young children, have infants, some have teenagers, some have grandchildren. We all have wisdom looking backwards. Is there anything that you would do differently?
No, I think it's key to just kind of really, I know it sounds so cliche, but it's to really just kind of enjoy each of the moments, right? So when they're little and, now especially as ours get bigger and you look back and a picture comes across the computer of them as a toddler or you remember something funny that they said, it really is just priceless, right? So, and it all goes by really, really, really quickly. And I just saw something came across Facebook or something just recently, and it was a poster, and it said something like, "One day you won't have anybody to drive to practice," and it kind of hit me because I mean, we have 3 girls involved in activities. Our life's crazy, so sometimes you do kind of wish for that night where I really don't want to go out or I don't want to drive here or I wish this weekend was just an at-home weekend. But I know that day will come, and so really it's just about enjoying all those moments as they're happening.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I got really emotional the other day looking at my oldest son because he's taller than all of us now. And, I'm just so proud of him. My heart just fills. And I think, wow, like he's already, needing us a little bit less, wanting to be independent, which is absolutely the normal flow of life. I mean, my friends give me so much. His friends give me a ton too. And he's such a great kid, but you can't help but feel nostalgic and then want to hold on to the younger ones a little bit closer. But I think about that every time I see little piles of Lego men, around, or little battles that have gone on with my 9-year-old son's life. And battles with his toys and figurines and stuff. And I think there's going to be a day where I'm not going to randomly come across a little Lego battlefield in the middle of my living room. Yeah. And it's a good pause and reflection to remind you to be present.
It is. But you know what? And it's so fun even looking ahead. Like if I I only had one brother growing up, so our family was by no means huge. So we have one extra, kid as a family of 3 girls. But I'm part of me is also excited to kind of jump ahead, right? So if I think, 5-10 years down the road and, I have Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner here and I'm going to have these girls who are older who might have boyfriends at the time and they're all going to be around my table. Like that part's pretty exciting too, right? And I know how much fun it'll be. So I'm looking forward to that too. So it's all good.
So if you were to fast forward to those, 10 years, 20 years down the road, what are your hopes and dreams for how you want to be as a mom?
Oh, well, Um,
I've
I
always thought, we have to, with anything we're doing with our kids, we start with the end in mind, right? So for me, if I want to have relationships with my sons as adults that are healthy, positive, with good communication, that are respectful, I feel like I have to continuously, implement that now, right? That be building
right.
those relationships. And, just like your daughter, you had a fight, like my older son, we had an argument last week about something. And of course, it ended with, I hate you and blah, 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 blah. And everyone's angry. And we just take some time to settle down. And half an hour later, he comes up to me and he's apologizing and he admits that he overreacted and was really just handling it in a very mature way and acknowledging, like, okay, I lost my cool. I'm sorry. We're going to have differences of opinion. So I think those communications have to start at all stages of their life.
They do. And you know what? I think they learn what they see, right? So, and I think they will emulate and live kind of what they've seen me do, right? So, I mean, I have a very strong relationship with my mom where there isn't a day that I don't speak to her, right? So literally, as they're having breakfast here in our kitchen, the phone rings at 7:30 every morning, and it's my mom on her way to work, just to say good morning, for me to say good morning, to kind of say, hey, what's on for the day? So literally the phone conversation might be 2 minutes, 3 minutes long. But, my parents are very involved in our girls' lives where we see them several times a week. We have things like Sunday dinner with my parents and my family. So I think they see the value of family and how strong it is on my kind of list of priorities. And so I hope that continues with them. And I really actually don't have any doubt that it will. So I know, and I will encourage them to, leave the nest here and kind of go off to school and travel and do whatever they need to do to kind of make themselves happy and to find their passion. But I also know that they will always know it's home and that they can always kind of come back here and that it'll be fun and that it'll be easy and that there'll be lots of hugs and smiles and kisses and laughs and everything else, right? And they will just know it's part of what they do.
Yeah. I agree, and I think another guest recently said on the podcast, it's having great kids isn't luck, and
No.
she was very passionately, it's choices that we're making. We're creating the intention of having a healthy family, which means we're making sure that we're communicating, we're making sure that we're spending time together, and it's when you set that intention, beautiful things happen.
For sure, for sure.
Now, you mentioned, setting examples for your girls. Let's talk about the example that you're setting with your marriage.
Okay.
As you said, you and Adam have been together for 18 years. I'm sure you've gone through some ups and downs, juggling new families, new businesses, his career changing, your career taking off. What are your keys to that?
Well, okay, so to clarify, we've actually been together 22 years. So we've just been married. Yeah, so it's been more than half my life, which when I think about that is it's crazy. So when I met him, I was only 19. I was, starting university. He was further along in university. He's a few years older than me, but essentially I think we've grown into adults together, right? I mean, I don't know if you're a full adult at 19, really.
Yeah, probably not.
No.
I'm not sure I'm a full adult at 42.
Well, you know what I was going to say. But you know what? I think the key to what I consider a great marriage is really having your values kind of aligned, right? And I mean, I think from the get-go, having those conversations and wanting the same things out of life and wanting to, do the same things with our kids and have them grow up having these experiences, and being aligned with our goals as far as work and what he wants to do and what I want to do and what we want our house to look like and if we want to travel, all that stuff, obviously, the more similar you are in those things, the less conflict kind of evolves. Right. But the key to us kind of doing as well as we do, I think we have a lot of fun. So for sure, there's moments that are tricky and, and stressful times. It's not fun, but we try and kind of get that back. Sex, I think that's pretty important. Mm-hmm.
Do you make time for date nights or times when you go on holidays without the girls?
For sure. I think we do a lot of things as a family of five. We do a lot of things with other kind of families, but we definitely make time for just the two of us. So whether that be we just go grab dinner, for a few years there when it was harder to kind of do things in the evenings. On my days off, I used to go and meet him for lunch kind of near his office so we could kind of just get that, hour to kind of chit chat. Right now, as the girls are older, it's easier for us to kind of get away on our own. So, we play in a volleyball league one night a week, just the two of us. Him and I both really like music and concerts, so we try and do that together. His favorite saying in any kind of thing in our house is probably to own your own shit, meaning that if it's your fault or if it's whatever, if you've kind of brought on whatever the situation is, you just need to own it and kind of apologize or recognize it and then move forwards and not try and kind of shift it onto somebody else. And so he'll call me on it. I'll call him on it. And it seems to be our new words to live by. And he'll tell the girls it too, right? So if they're kind of trying to shift blame or tell us that the reason they haven't gotten something done is because we had them doing something else, he'll just kind of tell them to really own it and get their ego out of the way and move on. So
I like that. I was going to ask you if there was a favorite quote or saying that inspires you, like something that has carried you through some difficult times or one that you think about often. Maybe that's it.
No, that's his. I'm not going to steal that one. That one's just his. For me, I have a couple. As you've known me for so long, you know that Adam has struggled with health in the past. So there have been times where he's pretty unwell and literally on our couch off work for, I think the longest stretch was maybe a 4-month period. So during that last bout that happened, I remember I came across a quote that said, you were given this life because you were strong enough to live it. And that one kind of really was something that I grabbed onto during that time because obviously I still had my practice that I had to show up for and make successful. We still had our girls that had to be fed and run around to all their activities, and we still had to kind of make life normal for them and happy and have laughter and everything else. But I also had him, not in a good place. And so I could have either kind of just, rolled up and said, okay, I'm out, or and I don't know what to do with this, or I could kind of step up and make it all happen. So that was a big one when we were going through that. The other one that kind of has always stayed with me is from, did you ever watch that movie, that Coach Carter movie?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and it asks, the coach is asking and he's saying, what's your deepest fear, son? And then I think it actually says something about our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond all measure.
I think that's a shorter version of a Nelson Mandela.
Yes.
Longer quote.
And so it's literally kind of the gist of it is that you're not scared about what you can't do. You're scared that you're going to be so good, but you don't know what to do with it, essentially. Yeah. And so I think fear holds a lot of us back. And I know it's something I've kind of struggled with a lot, fear of failure, fear of, being rejected, different things like that. And so it's just a matter of stepping out of that and doing things out of my comfort zone to really make a huge impact. And like I said, I'm still working on it.
Yeah, I love that you shared that because I do think, and that's certainly been the goal with this podcast, is so many women are dealing with the same feelings. Yep. Maybe not every day, but at different times in their life. And there's so much consistency that, that I see. I'm sure you see it with the moms you work with in your practice, that I really want women to know that you're not alone in feeling, oh my God, can I handle this today? Mm-hmm. Whether it's your child that's sick or you're crying or your relationship is crumbling or you're stressed at work, like everyone's dealing with those challenges at some time along their lifetime.
For sure. And it's on, like you just said, it's on a huge scale, right? So it it be something as small as, just getting back into a gym routine and worrying about not being able to keep up or worrying about losing 5 pounds or whatever it may be, or it could be something, huge about leaving a husband, right? It's a big scale, but we all struggle.
Yeah, it's making me think about something that I heard you say at a lecture you were giving at one of your women's wellness events, and the theme was something to do with dropping the hard-ons. But mums being, I think the theme of that particular one was very. There's a lot of sexual innuendos and a lot of fun with women and wine and pelvic health and and all kinds of good stuff.
You know what? That's usually a general theme with me.
Well, it's keeping your marriage alive too.
There you go. That's right.
But the whole, your whole message about women dropping the hard-ons was more about women dropping the hard-on themselves part, right?
For sure. Yeah. And it was about, this image of perfect. And, I remember even in part of it, I talked about how that Facebook, let's say, for example, where women are kind of, checking in on their friends and checking in on other women, that it's really like a highlight reel, right? So, you might see these women that post these beautiful family pictures from their vacation, and you might see a woman who's completed, the Boston Marathon, having this huge medal around her neck and all these different successes. And we kind of then compare ourselves to them and wonder, why can't I do it? But we forget that there's a journey to get to all those things, right? So that beautiful picture maybe 10 minutes before had like a meltdown and a tantrum and, a lot of tears or afterwards. And, that marathon medal had a lot of grueling runs and broken toenails kind of leading up to that, right? So it's not always just the glory.
Yeah, you don't see all the other moments that led up to that particular photo of everyone smiling.
Exactly. So it's not fair to kind of beat ourselves up about it. We're all trying our best and we're all doing a great job, and you just have to kind of recognize that.
We've talked about a lot today, and I think it would be great to sort of wrap up with a couple of your tips as far as what makes you rock your life right now. You talked about exercise, you talked about making time for yourself, having some kind of balance, but are those your keys to helping you perform, or do you have other lifestyle tips that you feel dramatically affect your day-to-day abilities to live your life?
No, I think those are really my key. I have a great friend who I do lots of work with here in town, and she's a personal trainer and kind of a coach, so to speak. And from the minute we kind of met, and she'd ask me, we'd bounce things off of each other. And I would always say to her, it's just about the balance. Like, you just really need the balance. And, to make me, live life on my terms, so to speak, I just want to be happy. So I'm going to do the stuff that makes me happy. And, being a chiropractor is a huge piece of that, because I get to, interact with all these kids and these families and change their lives. And that makes me really darn happy. Exercise is a huge part of my life, and I do it with great people. And obviously I have, I'm probably in the best shape of my life right now. So that makes me happy. I have a lot of fun with my family on vacations or just in our house. So I just kind of keep trying to just balance out those things that bring a smile to my face and just and keep me going.
And it sounds like, you're awfully clear about what things bring you joy and what things make you happy and that you want to do, and limiting the things that don't as much as possible.
Yeah, so saying no. And I remember I read something like that years ago, and it was a letter about saying no. If it's not going to add that piece of happiness to you, why are you doing it, right? So I really try, and we're busy, right? We're all busy, and you're all trying to juggle this 1,000 things in a day. So do the stuff that you want to do, and do the stuff that's going to make you happy. And then it just all kind of, the energy just goes exponentially from there, right? I feel like I can kind of take on anything.
Do you think moms can have it all?
For sure. Yeah. I think we need help. I don't think you can have it all by yourself. So I think you need a support system around you. So whether that be, you've got your kids in activities, and maybe you need other families to help with carpooling or picking up or whatever they can help you with. I think obviously if you have a support system of a family that can kind of, take the slack sometimes if you need some you time. I think you need to be able to sacrifice, like I said earlier, right? If you want to have that workout, then maybe you don't worry about, having the laundry done by 2:00 before the kids get home from school. Like, maybe that stuff has to wait. I think you can definitely have it all. You just have to kind of figure out what your all is.
I couldn't have said that any better. That's what I was going to say, is depending on what your all is. And I think delegating out parts of your life, for some people, for me, it's having someone clean the house.
Yeah.
I would rather take those couple hours or more to clean my house and instead spend that time with my kids or doing something that makes me happy, that then helps me be a better mom, a better chiropractor, better in all other facets of my life. So I think that delegating out some of the things, whether it's food, I know families that, once or twice a week, they have someone else cook their meals for them, or they have a childcare, or they just have a support team of other friends or family members. And it seems to be what I'm hearing on the podcast too, is a consistent theme about being able to either outsource on some level or just delegate other responsibilities from your life.
Yeah. And say no to some of those things. Right. So it's, I worked through a program years ago, and it was kind of asking me who I was. And I knew I was Allie Miller, the mother and wife. I knew I was Allie Miller, the chiropractor. But I didn't have to be Allie Miller, the cleaner of my house. And I didn't have to be Allie Miller, the accountant at my office, right? So you just kind of have to look and see where your time can be best spent and where, how much your time's worth, right? So if I have to spend 2 hours doing, my bookkeeping, or can I outsource that and use that 2 hours, just like you said, doing something I want to do with my family? So,
yeah. Well, I think that you're a rock star mom, like a lot of the other women I've chatted with here, just like rock stars who, are brave. They put themselves out there. They pursue their passion. It sounds to me like you're doing much of the same. What last thoughts? What inspires you every day to get out and give it your all and live life on your terms with a lot of joy?
I would say my girls. So it's getting up every day and, waking them with a good morning and helping them go after their dreams and showing them as a woman that they can do anything they want to do and have it all.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for your time today, Allie.
No problem. Thank you.
Any last thoughts for our listeners?
No. When do we get to have a dance party again?
I'm going to end the call here, and we can chat about that.
Perfect.
There you have it. A great story today from a mom who rocks. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Be sure to head on over to iTunes and subscribe to the podcast so that you don't miss out on any future episodes. When you do that, I'll be sending you a copy of my top 10 tips for moms. These are some of my personal practical strategies I believe that as women we can all benefit from and help us be emotionally and physically as healthy as we can be. When you're also there on iTunes, I would also love it if you left a review. It's really important to leave some reviews because that helps other people find the podcast, and it helps inspire them to listen and potentially gain some insight from the podcast. Tell other moms that you know would benefit from this show, or most certainly nominate them and let me know who you think I should be interviewing. I'd love for you to connect with us on Facebook as well. Head on over to Everyday Rockstar Mom and join our community there. Thanks so much for joining us today. We'll see you next time.